What are you like?
Hey everybody,
Hello.
welcome to, oh now I don't know how to turn off the music. Welcome to Tomato Talk Live. It's been a while.
Yeah, it has. Oh my goodness. Feels like forever.
It does feel like forever. It kind of has. I think we were like beginning of September with our last one.
No, was it? Wow.
Well, let's
Yeah,
see.
all my
September 8th.
birthdays.
September 8th.
Yeah.
And thank you to Ken Fry, who was with us last month. That was a really great episode on micro dwarfs. I'm Lauren. For those of you who are new, I'm Lauren.
And I am Jen.
And we are BFFs.
Yes.
And along with Tina, we run a group on Facebook called Tomato Lovers Collective and Swap, which many of you are probably watching from. Jenna's also, she laughs when I say this, but she's also a big YouTuber. You guys probably know. Her channel is Jen Joy, Your Day. I have a YouTube channel as well, Mr. and Mrs. Tomato Head. I'm the Mrs. of that. I very infrequently post, although in the winter with my micro dwarfs, I get a little more consistent. And here's our group, Tomato Lovers Collective and Swap. We would love if you guys would join us. We do have a great time. It's a wonderful group of people to share our passion for tomatoes. And that's how Jen and I got together, isn't it, buddy?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. We did a trade. For those of you that have watched before, you know this story, but I'll share for those of you that don't know. We did a trade several months ago, and we just like from moment one, we just hit it off and
fell in love with each other.
We did fall in love with each other. And it was just fantastic. And so we get excited. We get very excited about tomatoes, if you can't tell, because every episode we've had before this, we're kind of like, but there's this, there's this, there's this.
Yeah.
And so we have a great guest tonight and a great topic, don't we, Jen?
I'm so excited for this because I know practically nothing. And so I'm like ready to pick his brain.
Yes. Michael Kelly is a member of Tomato Lovers Collective and Swap, or TLC, as we call it. We also have a side chat, hydroponics, growing tomatoes in hydroponics. And he is, he laughs when I call him an expert, but he knows a lot, but not the complicated stuff, which is what I think, at least I'm looking forward to tonight, is because you can get it very complicated, and Michael's going to break it all down for us. But anyway, I bring him up because we had a meeting yesterday. It was supposed to be a 15-minute meeting, just so we could, like, I see him smiling backstage. So we could just, I promise him, like, 10, 15 minutes tops.
An hour and a half later. No.
Yeah, it was like an hour and a half later, because we're just talking tomatoes. We have fun. So for those of you joining us again, welcome back. And if it's your first time, welcome. We spend the hour talking tomatoes, various topics that pertain to tomatoes. And depending on where you live, your tomato season might be winding down. Mine's basically done. But there's the beautiful thing called micro dwarfs.
Micro dwarfs. I just found out about them last year.
Yeah. My first one was last year too, actually.
Was it?
It was Orange Hat, which is a very unfortunate way to start.
Same. That's what I grew the first. Yeah, it was like Orange Hat, and then I found out about you.
Well, I started this micro dwarf tomato project. I also, my day job, which I don't make money for, but I run a group on Facebook called Attitude of Gratitude for chronic pain, for people living with chronic conditions and just need some positive help. And some people can't leave their house. And so I wanted them to know they could get the benefit of gardening and what I call dirt therapy through these little things. So I'm like, I'm going to grow every micro dwarf and show them it can be done. Well, I thought there were like 20 varieties of micro dwarfs. There's a lot more, and there's more coming.
And there's more coming. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah.
We're never going to get bored with micro dwarfs now.
We are not.
Because I thought there for a minute, I was like, well, once I grow them all, then I'm going to be bored, but they're coming out more.
For members of TLC, you know, we are counting down on November 1st. We are starting our very first group-wide optional. We're calling it Micropalooza. And really, it's just we're all going to grow micro dwarfs together. And they can be grown in whatever, how, you know, however many you want. But I think after tonight and after we talk to Michael, some of you and me may want to try one or more in growing in hydroponics and water and cracky methods. So we'll bring him on in just a minute. I wanted to talk to you, Jen, about you put out a recent video on your channel, and Jen cranks out some amazing videos. So again, if you haven't joined her channel, it's great. But you did a recent video on your favorite tomato books.
Yes.
And I'm way behind on your video.
One.
I did. I gave you one of your favorites called "You Bet Your Tomatoes."
Yeah.
And Epic Tomatoes. Those would be my two top picks too.
Oh,
but I've come across two very recently that I just wanted to tell you guys about because they're great. This one I've mentioned in the group. So my friend Malachite Jen, I call her Jennifer Fox, told me about this one. This is the guy that wrote the $64 tomato. This is William Alexander.
I have that book.
So this just came out in June. I'm listening to it on Audible. It's called 10 Tomatoes That Changed the World. And it's wonderful. And part of the reason why Jen suggested it to me is she thought I could read it when I was going to Italy. I came back from Italy 2 weeks ago, which was an amazing trip. And so it talks a lot about Italy and tomatoes grown in soil of Mount Vesuvius and all that. So if you're interested at all in the history of the tomato, but he's also got a lot of wit, as you probably know from the $64 tomato. It's really good. A very good read. So I recommend that. And then I just got a used copy of this one by the late Dr. Carolyn Mayle, who is very big in the tomato world, is very influential in the tomato world. And so this is, I believe this was out of print. I got a used copy pretty easily, although I think it's used. It doesn't look used.
Yeah,
anyway,
sometimes they don't.
There's some really excellent advice on saving seeds in here. I mean, most of the pages talk about old heirloom varieties. But she's got some excellent tips also. And she's like the godmother of tomatoes.
What's the title of that?
It's called 100 Heirloom Tomatoes for the American Garden.
100 heirloom tomatoes.
She only passed away in 2019.
Oh, really?
I know she and Craig LaHoulay did a lot of work together, but she's very influential. In fact, you know her name and you don't realize it, because if you're looking at descriptions of tomatoes, so many of them you will say bred by Carolyn Mayle. That's her.
Oh, okay.
So I just want to get my book things in there. And if you guys are new, or if you forgot, we are an interactive broadcast, and we try our best to get to all the comments, but we can put comments on the screen, and we really want to incorporate you guys, the audience, into our episode. We want you to, give us comments and questions, especially for Michael. Kristen says, seems forever since a live stream. Yay. Hey, y'all. Hey, Kristen, thank you for watching.
Hi, Kristen.
Do my best to get to all of them. Hey, Dawn.
Hi, Dawn.
Hello. So, oh yeah, Orange Hat was her first one too. Yeah, it's such an unfortunate one. That's the one Baker Creek sells.
Yeah,
the big producer.
That's where I got my seeds. Orange Hat.
The worst tasting micro in the world. But anyway, without further ado, we have to bring on our special.
Live. That one was pretty bad.
Was it a micro?
Yeah, the one I just tasted. It wasn't from Baker Creek.
Oh yeah.
You remember what was it called?
Golden Hour.
Golden Hour.
But that just has no taste, right?
Yeah.
Or did yours have a bad taste?
No, it was like a wet paper towel. Orange Hat. Yeah, I guess you're right. It has like a flavor, but it's not good.
I've found a lot of micros that have zero taste. I'm not sure if there's any that were just plain bad tasting. But anyway, so let me bring Michael on because the hour goes fast. But anyway, please feel free to add your thoughts and comments and questions because that's what this hour is about. Keep them coming. So without further ado, welcome to Michael Kelly. Hey, Michael.
Hi.
Hi, Michael.
You guys? And I can't see the chat or else it'll cover the whole thing. But yeah, whatever pops up on the screen, I'm sure we'll get to.
I will try to get to as many as possible. And I will look for sure for questions for you because I guarantee you there will be a lot. I know I have a lot. Jen said she has a lot. So so you've been in our group. Well, we only started the group in July, but you've been sort of, you and Dawn, I think a few others in our separate hydroponics chat. You've been really helpful to people like me who've been curious and asking questions about, what to do and all that. So let me start with a fun fact about Michael. He has never grown a tomato in soil, ever.
That just blows my mind.
Not yet.
I'm like,
I'm thinking of doing the micropalooza in soil.
Oh.
Try something different.
Yeah, taking a walk on the wild side.
Come to our side.
Come to the dark side, literally. Tell us why we have so many questions for you. But tell us why you've never grown in soil and why you choose hydroponics.
Okay, so I live in an apartment and I love growing stuff that I can eat. The general houseplant stuff like monsteras and philodendrons and stuff, I think they look great, but I need that kind of gratification of getting something to eat out of it. So I was just looking everywhere for easy, small stuff that I could grow in an apartment and I would get fruit or vegetables out of it. So I grew a few things like radish, I tried beets, and a couple other things, maybe bell peppers in soil. But I realized, first of all, I was spending so much money in soil and it was messy in my apartment and it was attracting bugs everywhere. And I was like, there must be a better way.
You guys will see me through the episode. Yeah. They do. I put up with them. But you're right. They do attract bugs for sure.
Yeah. So I started looking into the hydroponics and like most people, I was overwhelmed and put it off for months because I was like, there's so much information about all this stuff and nobody's doing anything kind of simple. Everything seems so crazy about it. And it was interesting, but I don't have the space or money or time to do all this kind of stuff. I just want it to be as simple as possible. And just going down YouTube rabbit holes, I eventually found the Kratky method. And it was through that same rabbit hole that I found you guys and I found micro tomatoes and it all kind of spiraled all together. And it felt like within a month or two, I was not only obsessed with tomatoes, but obsessed with micro tomatoes and obsessed with you guys. I was just
You're welcome.
I need all of this.
I just wanted to put the spelling of this method up so you guys know if you want to Google Kratky, Kratky.
Even a fun word, Kratky.
Yeah, it's based on the guy, I think he's a professor, and he kind of like pioneered the method. And apparently he doesn't really call it the Kratky method. I guess it would be like a humble thing about it, but everybody else does. So yeah.
So when did you start all this? How long ago was it?
I'd say I got my first micro in May, maybe.
Of this year?
Yeah, of this year.
Wow.
And I started it in Kratky and then eventually moved it over to an Aerogarden, but there's a whole backstory with that. So yeah, it was early this year. Okay. That's what I mean. Like it all spiraled all together and now I just feel like my head is bursting with information about all this stuff.
That's awesome.
And you created a video for TLC that was just really helpful and informative. And we had already planned on having you on the show. And Jen and I are like, between Micropalooza starting in November for our group and whatever, like let's ask Michael if he can move it up to October, because you have a really great way of explaining things that isn't overwhelming, because I've looked at YouTube videos for hydroponics also, and there's lots of pumps and big bins, and I wonder, like, is that really any simpler? What are they gaining from that? I don't know. And if you guys have grown hydroponically at home, please put in the comments if you do, what your experience has been. Oh, here's Dawn. She hasn't grown in soil for 3 years now.
Yeah, no, Dawn is always in the chats as well.
Yeah.
And she's been doing it for a long time. She knows her stuff as well. So I'm glad she's here. Anything that I missed, Dawn, please.
Yes, please, Dawn. In fact, if you want to come on, I can invite you as a guest. Yes. No pressure at all. But if you want to put in the comments, it would be helpful. So you just started in May, and you're a quick study, obviously, because you know your stuff. So what was your first experience with it?
The first experience was the ink spot for sure. I basically just went down the YouTube rabbit hole of finding all the different things that I would need, and then broke that down into the cheapest materials I could find. And like the containers, for example, you can use literally anything that holds water.
Okay.
So I kind of just put it together, put it under these cheap Amazon lights that I had, and hope for the best. And then within a couple weeks, it was growing, and I was like, oh, so this works. And then from there, I just tried to make it stronger and stronger and learn as I went along, basically.
What is hydroponics exactly? That's probably a silly question, but
it's a good place to start.
We know water, right? We know it's growing in water, but how else would you define it?
So I've been thinking about this a lot, and all plants need these things to grow. They need light, water, and nutrients, right? In traditional gardening, your light would come from the sun, your water would come from the rain or your hose or however you want to water them, and then the nutrients come from the soil. The difference with hydroponics is you add the nutrients instead of getting them from the soil. So once you know that,
water.
Sorry?
You add them to the water.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so once you know kind of that basic idea of, okay, well, the plants are getting the exact same things they would be getting from a normal garden, you can kind of jerry-rig whatever system you want to make it work. And that's why you see all these crazy systems that people have come up with.
Right.
Because it's just different ways of providing those three things to a plant.
And it's cool seeing the roots grow. I've seen, in the YouTube videos, and you've shared your stuff, just seeing like all these roots growing, and it's really fascinating. Yeah,
that's one of the coolest things I think about hydroponics is because in soil you never get to see the roots until you uproot it,
right?
And then you see a big root ball, but it's covered in soil anyway. With hydroponics, you can pretty much just look at them all the time, and it's incredible to see what these plants are creating out of nothing.
It's fascinating. Dawn says, I started hydro in 2018 and 2019 with the pumps, air stones, and killed everything. Quit totally. Started simple, crack key November 2020. I didn't know that.
So interesting.
Hydroponics uses 10 times less water than soil takes.
What?
Wow.
Oh, that's a very fun fact.
That kind of makes sense, actually, because you're not consistently watering it, are you?
Yeah. And the soil is not going to dry out because there is no soil. So you don't need to continuously add to it.
And you can see when there is not enough water.
Yes. Yes. Oh my God.
Know when to water.
Growing inside, especially, like a lot of the time you end up growing in pots and containers that don't have drainage. And I've been surprisingly successful with that, but you never know exactly when you're over or under watering.
Yep.
But that just isn't a factor with hydroponics. It kind of can be, and we'll talk about your Vilman.
Yeah, you tell me when you tell me when you're ready for me to show my prop. Yeah, I've tried it a few times, once last year and once this year, where I thought it was going well this year, but Yeah, when we're ready, when you feel like that's a good segue, I can bring that out. I've got examples.
Okay.
I don't know if I'm jumping the gun here, but I'm
Go
just
for it.
excited to. Can you just show us like your method from starting the seed from start to finish with the crack key method? Like you were just saying, you had, you know, the mechanism that you bought that was the cheapest that you could find, and then whatever you were putting it in. Do you start? How do you start your seed? Is it
okay? I'll walk you through it. I tried to gather all the stuff that I have around me. So this box I bought from Amazon, and these brands, they're kind of just like, I don't know, people put a name on the box and say that that's their brand, but they're all kind of using the same stuff basically.
Okay.
This was $20, I think, and it came with a bunch of these sponges, which are, I don't know, some kind of peat kind of base thing, but it's neutral. There's no nutrients or anything in this. It's not soil. It's just a sponge.
And that looks like it will fit in one of the Aerogarden pots. Yeah.
It's an alternative to the Aerogarden stuff. I'll talk about Aerogardens a little bit later, but the Aerogarden ones are a lot more expensive.
Yeah.
So,
and then, you know, not to interrupt you, but the other reason why hydroponic stuff's just exploded is because Aerogardens and the tower systems have really just exploded in popularity, haven't they? So
and they've made things so easy for people. Like, I talk a lot of crap about them because of how expensive they can be. They're a stepping stone for people, you know, to get into it and to actually grow something that they can eat for themselves. And I don't have any problems with them besides the price. So the other thing it comes with is a basket, and this is made for Aerogardens basically because there's a lip around it to hold it in place, but you drop the sponge in there, and then it comes with stickers.
Oh, I love stickers.
The sticker basically just
sold on new hydroponics. We got stickers.
The stickers just cover the top of it so that when the light is coming down on it, it doesn't create algae.
Oh, is that why those are there?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's very simple and
A
straightforward.
couple of things. I ripped those off.
If you don't want to use the sticker, if you don't have it, people use foil because it's anything to just stop that extra light coming through, basically.
Oh, that makes sense.
And then these are just domes, basically.
So it's kind of like when you're doing in soil, you have like the dome cover to keep the humidity down while the seeds are germinating.
Yeah, it's a humidity dome, so it just fits on top.
So cute.
Oh, look how, I was going to say that, cute.
All of these things are so cute. They're just like little things. And then this box, it was like an extra $3 to get these 2 bottles. And these are the nutrients. So I was like, okay, I'll pay $3 and get the nutrients because you can never have enough nutrients. But these are actually they have the bags. They're actually crystallized or in like rock form, kind of. And you put them in the bottle, add water, shake it up, and those are your nutrients. Most of the time with these systems, you'll get A and B. I don't know the chemical properties of the two, like what is in A and what's in B, but generally you're looking at like nitrogen, potassium, sodium, whatever, the kind of stuff that you would see in any nutrient or fertilizer, right?
NPK.
Exactly. Yeah, so you would add these to your water. Now, this is my method, and there's tons of different methods of going about this, but I found this at the dollar store, and the prices on it, it was $5. So they liked me again every time. And this is a net cup. The net cup is what holds the plant, basically, and this sits inside of it. Now, there's 2 methods of going about it. You can either buy your net cups and then look for a container to fit them, or you can buy containers and then find a net cup to fit. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's what I did.
Yeah, so I normally just look for a container that I like, and then I'll find a net cup that fits it.
Hmm.
Because if not, then you fall into the category of people who are like drilling holes in the top of all the containers and everything. And I'm like, I don't want to deal with any of that. I just want to slip stuff in.
And they seem to make net cups in a ton of different sizes.
That
Right?
was my next question. Do they have them in a bunch of different sizes?
Yeah, they have them all from like 1 inch up to, I've seen like 10-inch ones that fit on top of a whole bucket.
Wow.
The problem I found with the bigger the net cup is you need more of these. I'll try not to drop them everywhere. So these are, they're called leca, which is like a slang term kind of. It's it's light. I'm not gonna try and break it down, but it's basically clay pebbles.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, if you can see them. They're clay pebbles and they're just dry, and the main function of these is to hold the plant in place so that it can sit, the roots can drop down below, and you put it in there with the water and nutrients, and that's the entire setup.
So you've got the thing you showed, the little pointy thing with the, so you start the seed in there.
Yeah.
And then how do you get it from there to what you're showing?
So you can actually start it in this system.
Oh, okay.
Because the sponge is enclosed and there's a hole in it. So you just drop it in there. To be completely honest, I've been using the Aerogarden to start them because I've just had so much success with starting in the Aerogarden. I don't know what it is about having the pumps or the light constantly there or whatever, but just popping them in the Aerogarden, they start within a week and they're off to the races. I just take out the whole thing and drop it in my system that I've made for $5 and it's all set up.
They really are easy.
So once the seed starts in that little plastic thing, do you just take the whole plastic thing and put that into those little clay balls?
Yes.
Is that what you do, or do you have to take it out of the plastic thing?
You can definitely keep it in the plastic thing.
Okay.
Eventually, the roots will grow so big that they'll completely take over the plastic thing and it can even break them.
Oh.
So because it's plastic, I like to reuse them as much as possible.
Right.
So if it's quite a young plant, like 2 weeks or whatever, you can just pop out the whole plant and
so
just
transplant. You transplant before the roots get too crazy.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So you just remove the plastic part, you keep it in the spongy thing, and then stick that in the pebbles.
So the spongy thing goes in the pebbles. Or do you reuse the spongy thing too?
No.
Okay.
I've heard that some people have, but honestly, like this thing was $20 and I got so many of these things.
Ah, wow. Okay.
That it's
the condition of mine, which I'll show you in a bit, they're not wanting to be reused.
They get completely demolished eventually by the roots.
Patricia says, I have the Back to the Roots hydroponic grow kit. Do I have to change the water? I'm new to growing in hydroponic.
Okay, I don't know what the Back to the Roots hydroponic grow kit is.
No, but I love their grow light. We know that. Let me look it up. Oh wait, back to
in general.
Back to the Roots. I was thinking it was Root Farm. Back to the Roots is the company that makes the mushroom. Oh, here it is. Hydroponic grow kit. Oh, Patricia, don't be showing me anything new. Right,
it does look like it looks like a little Aerogarden type thing.
Let me try to get on the screen.
A lot of these things are the exact same system. There's like, if you go on Amazon and type in hydroponic growing system or growing kit, you will see 1,000,001 different variations of these things, and they're all essentially the same thing. They are the Kratky method with a little submersible pump inside to aerate the water and a light.
Cute. It looks like an Aerogard. My little one, I know, has like a little light that will blink when I need to add more nutrients. And then I just have to check from time to time to make sure the water's at the fill level. I would assume that's kind of the same.
Yeah, these systems are really good for beginners because they really take all the guesswork out of what needs to be done. There's not a lot of maintenance that needs to be done in general with this stuff, but most of the time they'll tell you, okay, add nutrients. And the way they do that, at least with the Aerogardens, it's on a 2-week timer. So every 2 weeks, the light will blink, and that just tells you, oh, you need to add more nutrients.
Let me show you guys my little things.
So with the method you were just showing us, do you have to change the water, or do you just keep adding fresh water?
I just keep adding fresh water. I've
Okay.
heard that
Oh, you
people
do?
change out their water, but I just add to mine because that seems like too much work to try and get the plant out. And I'm just like,
Yeah.
I want to keep it as simple as possible.
Right.
Okay.
These containers are pretty small. They're drinking through water so quickly that it's not getting stagnant, really, right? I could see if you have a giant bucket and the water's sitting there for a long time, the nutrients are sinking to the bottom, getting old, might be creating some root rot or something. A lot of it is just keeping an eye on the plant and seeing the health of it. If your plant's doing badly, yeah, dump the water, clean it out, do it again. But if everything's good, don't fix it. Like,
Do you have a certain like water level that you know you want to keep it at, and then you just keep an eye on that
yeah,
to
so
refill it?
I'll keep using this prop because it's empty, so it's quite easy. So the net cup, it'll get to a different height on each container, obviously, but I tend to keep it just at the bottom of the net cup. And
Okay.
that gives enough space for the roots inside of the net cup to develop the little hairs that absorb oxygen. And that's the difference between Kratky and something like the Aerogardens, is there's no pump to add oxygen to it. So with Kratky, there's an area of just like moist air, basically, and that promotes these little hairs to grow on the roots. And then anything below that is just water and nutrients. So you can keep that at that level the whole time, and I just try to maximize that as much as possible so I'm not filling it up too often.
And then how often do you feed it? Did you already say that and I missed it? How often do you give it nutrients?
Yeah, I kind of do the same thing as the Aerogardens, which is just every 2 weeks.
Okay.
Yeah, and since I have Aerogardens, I kind of just go by what they say. So
Yeah.
if one of them needs nutrients, I'll be like, yeah, the other ones probably need them too, and I'll add them.
So I bought this one for my daughter for Christmas, and she lives in New York City. As you can see, it is not in New York City. It is here with me. She left it in her room for a couple months, and so I claimed it. So I'm trying to grow. This is like a basil cutting I propagated. Unfortunately, this is called the Sprout. I think this is the smallest Aerogarden they make.
Yeah.
Which is why I thought it would be good for her apartment. And then I had asked Michael if I could start something. If something I started in soil, can I move it to make it hydroponic? And he told me yes. So that's what I did. So here's I just cut off some of the roots. I probably killed it.
No, it'll
Not
wake
a
up.
tomato
No.
plant.
So this is a Vilma. It looked healthier before I went to Italy. Lost some of the bottom leaves, but it looks okay.
Yeah.
It's only like a month and a
Nice
half
and
old.
green.
So
Can you hold it a little bit closer so I can see? Like, is there
plant
anything
or the unit?
This thing, the basket?
Yep.
Is there anything in there, or is it just the plant?
It's in some rock wool.
Rock wool, okay. So
Not good.
well, yeah, rock wool is one of the most popular methods of starting seeds in hydroponics because it's relatively cheap and it's easy to work with. It absorbs so much water, which is good for seeds, obviously. My only thing with rock wool is it was originally made for insulation, right?
Oh,
So, like, it goes in your walls, and
which is made of like
it's not asbestos. I'll say that.
like toxic
right?
stuff. What not polyester. I can't think of the name of it, but yeah,
I know what you're saying.
It looks and feels like insulation too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
What about a cotton ball? Like, the stuff that you use to remove nail polish. Could you use that to start a seed in?
absolutely, yeah. We were talking about there's a guy on YouTube called Hucho, and he's done a few videos starting seeds in cotton balls. And
He says cotton wool. Is that the same as cotton balls?
Yeah, he's just Australian.
Okay,
So-
all right. 'Cause I was just like, I don't know what cotton wool is, but I have cotton balls.
Yeah, same exact thing.
Okay.
Yeah. But in terms of starting, you can start however you are comfortable starting. Like the first micro I ever got was the Ink Spot, and I bought it from just like a regular sale. It was a seedling in soil, and I just took it out, washed the roots, and put it in one of these setups, and that's fine. If you are comfortable and you know how to start seeds in soil, start it in soil, and then wash off the soil before you put it in, because the soil can contaminate the water and add nutrients and bacteria and stuff that you might not want in there. But otherwise, yeah, you can start however you want. That I just tend to tell people, when it comes to rock wool, keep in mind they tell you to wear a mask when you're dealing with it when it's dry.
What? No.
Because there's fibers
No.
that are very
No.
I mean, I'm not opposed to wearing a mask, but when you're told to do that when you're, I don't think so.
No more.
That's
I don't
my-
have to wear a mask when I'm playing with cotton balls. So
exactly.
wanted to
That's
show
my
you guys,
personal preference.
If you, I don't know if you can see, it's very gunky at the top because I took the sticker off. Now I know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
you should have kept that sticker, Laura.
I know.
It's fine. I can actually. Okay, so we can talk about the gunk stuff, which is just algae, right? And algae is something that you will most definitely deal with hydroponics. And it basically comes from the combination of light hitting nutrients. And what that's doing is algae is I guess it's a type of weed. You know how when you have your soil and you give it all the indicators it needs for life, it's going to grow weeds in your soil. Same thing with algae, it's just in water instead. So it's not necessarily a problem, but if there's so much algae that it's competing with your plant for nutrients, that's when it becomes an issue. Because the algae is so productive, I guess, it'll just take over and kill your plant.
So the algae, it grows on top of the water or all over the container or?
All over. 1 second. I'll show
Okay.
you.
Because I know what happens in my pool.
Oh yeah. You can't shock your tomato plant either.
Okay, so when I did that video in the TLC group and I talked about how I had a rosy finch that had no algae, it now has a lot of algae.
Oh yeah.
Oh no.
So.
Oh, look how cool that is, though.
Oh.
Yeah.
And hardly any water.
Yeah, it's running a little low on water. I should probably add to it.
How much would you, not to get sidetracked, but how much would you add to that? Does it need much more?
I would add it right back up to the.
Oh, you
the
would?
edge of the net
Okay.
cup.
Where are the roots? Like, okay, I don't know if I'm looking at algae or roots.
All you're looking at is roots.
Oh, okay. But
That's
the algae
really
is all over the roots. Is that why they're
Exactly.
green? Because
Yeah.
they should be white, right?
Yeah, I found the tomato ones tend to be kind of like a tan color.
Okay.
They're like mostly white, but kind of like a light brown at the same time. But yeah, once they get like this, I'm like, that's scary. But the plant's still doing fine. I mean, it's
it looks great.
So is there something that you can add to the nutrients that would combat the algae or no? Because I know in my pool, I can add algicide, but I don't.
That's a good question. I don't know. I know that apparently if you add copper into the container, it'll kill all the algae. I haven't tried it. And none of the pennies that I have are made out of pure copper.
Oh,
So
right.
I can't
They
even try
aren't, are
that.
they?
But that's what people recommend is like throwing a copper penny.
Dawn or anybody else, if you have thoughts on that, let us know.
I don't know if it was it our last tomato talk or maybe I watched it or read it or something, but some people were saying, you know how you put an egg in the tomato hole or you put a fish head in the tomato hole? Someone said put a copper penny in the tomato hole.
Oh, interesting.
Never heard that one before.
And I was like, but it's got to be copper because, you know, some pennies, I guess, aren't made of copper anymore.
Dawn says you can add food grade 3% peroxide, 3 milliliters per gallon. Thanks, Dawn.
I've definitely added peroxide before to add oxygen to my plants. If I've overfilled it and then it was starting to die because it started to drown the roots, then I would add some peroxide and it would kind of bring it back to life for enough time that I could revive it. But it will kill everything in it, all the nutrients, good bacteria. So you need to add that back in after.
I forgot to mention before we move too much further, but we are giving away some seeds tonight. So
Oh,
in
yeah.
the comments, if it's your first time, just anytime during the show, type in hashtag tomato, one singular tomato, hashtag tomato. Make sure you spell it right. And I'm not saying that to be a nudge, but the software that uses will only register if it's spelled correctly. So hashtag tomato. Jen's giving away seeds. I'm giving away seeds. And Michael has agreed to give away seeds, which is very generous.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Michael.
Dawn, for
Of
your
course.
thoughts. So when I first heard about cracking and first tried it last year, I was seeing stuff on YouTube and people were recommending I wanted to do it in a quart mason jar. I don't know if that's too small or not. We can talk about that in a minute, but people were
I would say
recommending
quart.
you
I
paint
would like
it,
that because I have lots of those.
or yeah, me too. You paint it or wrap it in paper to prevent the algae because the clear glass has the light coming in.
Yeah.
But then on Amazon,
But don't you want the light?
Not
you
on
want
the
the light on
roots.
the top and not
Oh, not on the roots.
side. So
Yeah.
they made these cozies I found on Amazon just for those jars. I won't show you what's underneath because that would be a spoiler. Yeah. So
So
I
you've
don't
got
know.
a jar inside that.
There's a jar. Yeah, there's a jar. I'll just show you. I'll show you the end result. This was a very bad attempt at cracking. I'm not sure why. But yeah, it's got this little thingy here, and there's my kind of algae jar. All things were going well. I've got my net cup. Plant was going along swimmingly. In fact, I've got a before picture. This was August 28th. I think I may have showed it off on our Microdorf episode last month.
Looks so promising.
It did look promising.
Oh, yeah.
I went to Italy. I
So
filled
sad.
it with water. I put nutrients in, but I don't know. Was it too much water? What do you think?
The only thing that I can think of, and the only way that I've killed one before, was when the water gets lower. If it's low for a long enough time, the roots will create those air roots to absorb oxygen, right? And once they get to that point, as far as I know anyway, you can't go back and make them absorb water and nutrients anymore. They only want oxygen. So if you fill it past the point of where you have air roots, it's going to drown the plant.
Okay.
And that's the only thing that's happened to me before, and that's the only thing I can really think of that would have
How long does that take to happen? The air roots? Does it take multiple days of you forgetting to water, or is it like 24 hours and you're?
I've gone close to a week before.
Okay.
With it and without that happening,
Okay.
but it's risky doing that every time because sometimes you just don't want to tend to your stuff,
Yeah.
And
I don't like to water, so
it's the same kind of thing. Like
But this did have water, I have to say, but
maybe,
I don't know. Maybe I put too many
nutrients?
I did
too much
before I left for Italy. Yeah, it could have been too much. I don't know.
Yeah, I guess it could have been too much nutrients as well. Especially when you're planning to go away and you're like, let me top up everything to make sure that's enough.
More is not always better.
No.
Seriously.
MD says we use a dark container or cover the containers to reduce algae. I hear that a lot.
Okay.
So this was
I did not know that.
the Hokalos thing that I did the video on. So he's still doing well.
Wow.
That's a beautiful one.
Really well.
And I used I got this stuff from the hardware store, and it's like a vinyl wood style sticker.
They have that at the Dollar Tree.
Yeah, it's the same kind of stuff, and they have all these different designs and stuff. Like you can get ones that look like marble. You can make it however you want it to look, but it basically just covers the plant covers the roots, so that you don't get algae on them.
I like that you left the window there though, because I want to see the roots. That's part of the fun,
Exactly.
right?
I want to see the roots, and I want to see how much water is in there.
Right.
And that's just an easy way to do it. I might have left too big of a gap, but you live and you learn. The more you do it, the more you realize, oh, that could have worked
Yeah.
better. You know, it's the same with regular gardening, I suppose.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, for
Very
sure.
cool.
Richard, hi Richard. He says, I've never grown hydroponically. How does taste compare to growing in soil? Great question. I heard some debate on this, I think in the micro or the hydro chat a few days ago. What are your thoughts?
Yeah. So I've been thinking very hard about this.
Okay.
And I've come to 3 possible conclusions about this. The first one is when it comes to growing stuff like lettuce in hydroponics, all you really need is like nitrogen, for example, maybe a couple other things, because you're just growing leaves, right?
Right.
When it comes to tomatoes, you need a lot more different variations of nutrients and like micronutrients and stuff, like calcium, magnesium, and stuff like that. So it is possible that the people who said they haven't gotten great flavor out of hydroponic tomatoes is because they're not adding the right nutrients or the right amount of nutrients.
Okay.
Basically. So that's one possibility. The other one is the majority of people growing hydroponic tomatoes are growing them in Aerogardens, right? Just because it's the simplest way to get it done. And the only tomatoes that really work in the Aerogardens are micros.
Right.
And we all know that micros tend not to have the most flavor.
Most of them.
Yeah.
Well, not, I won't even generalize that, but a lot of them don't. You're right. A lot of them don't.
that I've
Totally
tried
depends on the variety.
Yeah, they don't compare to a big old juicy slicer.
No.
Yeah. So I can see that like people trying something out of their garden and saying, why doesn't this taste like my regular cherry tomato that I get outside? And it could just be that it's a micro without much flavor.
Right.
And stuff like the Aerogardens, they give you my plant just fell over. They give you stuff like orange hat to try it. Right.
Yeah.
So that's it. And then the last possibility is simply that it's true that it just doesn't taste as good. But I mean, I am
determined to find out, Richard, because my beloved Vilma, which is no secret, that's my favorite micro dwarf. I've got the one in the Aerogarden there. I want to compare the flavor as part of one of my experiments. I like to do tomato experiments for my YouTube channel. So I'm determined to find out the answer to this. But Michael, you said something great yesterday as far as that question, which is you still have a better tasting tomato than what you'd get at the grocery store in the winter, right?
Hands down.
Yeah.
I tried one with my brother when he was here, and I actually didn't think too much of it at first. I was like, here, try this tomato I grew. And he's like, oh, this is incredible. And I was like, it seems okay to me. And then we're like, well, let's compare it to a store-bought one. And instantly we're like, oh, yeah, this tastes like
I have a video I'm about to edit, which Ben and I did like something like that. So
really,
we have a video where we test out, like we blindfolded. We got blindfolded, and then Jade and Tyler gave us different tomatoes to taste. And
oh, that's awesome!
Oh,
you'll see if we picked out the store bought amongst the other
Oh, what
ones.
a great idea!
Push that to the top of the edit list. I want to see that one.
Yeah, me too. Malachite Jen. Hey, Malachite Jen. She says, interested in what water Michael uses. Good question. Okay, to use tap. Is there a preferred nutrient he uses? Didn't care for the flavor of the produce when using Aerogarden nutrients.
Okay, so start with the water. I started using this stuff that I drank for myself called Zero Water. And it basically takes all of the stuff out of the water. And I was like, oh, this makes sense to me, just have it as clean as possible. And then I was spending money on filtered water for my plants, and I was like, let me just see if it makes any difference. I switched to my tap water and have been super successful since then. There are a lot of people that will test the pH of their water. They'll test the EC, which I think is like electric conductivity of the water, and parts per million. They'll test all these complicated things in their water, and to give it the perfect conditions for growing.
I'm not going to do that.
That
No,
is
I'm not
almost
either.
that is almost the opposite. I seem to be giving my plants the most difficult conditions to grow in to make sure that they're strong enough to grow.
Oh, that's a good way to look at it.
Not even on purpose. That just happens to be how it is. But yeah, I use tap water and it's been fine. Now, obviously, if you live somewhere like Flint, Michigan,
Right.
don't use your tap water.
Right.
But yeah,
I
tap
would-
water should be fine.
The nutrients I was using, and certainly I'm no expert, clearly, as you know, I showed you from the example, but the Aerogarden did ship with nutrients, but I showed Michael and Jen this yesterday. I'm a big Fox Farm fan. I like this. I don't know, Michael, what your thoughts are on it. It says it's 644.
Yeah, so the 644 it refers to the NPK ratios. So the higher the number, the more nutrients, basically, the more concentrated. I buy whatever's available, to be honest, because it's all the same stuff.
Is it really?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's NPK. Like, in terms of concentration of them, I suppose if you're growing a large amount, you want it as concentrated as possible so that you can stretch it further, if that makes sense. But if you're just starting out and you're overwhelmed with the amount, buy these AB cheap nutrients that you get on Amazon. Like, they'll do the trick. They'll give them the nutrients they need to at least get started. And then
Does it have like the what's in them on the bottle, or the percentages of like the NPK, or?
Oh yeah, it does. So the A is
I just want it all in one.
11% nitrogen.
Mm-hmm.
And then I don't know what, I think one of them is magnesium. I don't know what a lot of these things are.
Oh, okay, so it's got
Zinc,
multiple
iron.
different, like,
There's a lot of stuff in here.
okay.
Yeah, so
So it's
the
not
A,
just NPK, it's all the,
yeah, there's like micronutrients in there as well, which are
Okay.
pretty important. And then actually the B is calcium and magnesium, which a lot of people say that is the trick to get flavor out of your
Right.
tomatoes.
I've heard
Is
that.
having
Okay.
calcium and magnesium.
Right. So maybe having it separate would be beneficial too if you ever feel like, yeah, it's lacking in a little calcium, magnesium, then you can just add that in
Add a
rather
little
than the
bit of
whole
that.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I had bought these, which the only hydroponic store close to me is for cannabis, but plants pretty much all need the same things. So I try to ignore all the designs on it that try to make you seem like you're buying stuff for the 60s. And I just look at what's in it and I'm like, okay, yeah, nitrogen, calcium, magnesium, boron, copper, iron, this will work. And this was like $6, I think. Oh, this was $10, but Canadian. So it's cheaper. And yeah, I just add that every couple weeks and everything seems to be going well.
Yeah. Fox Farm clearly
Fantastic.
gears their stuff to cannabis too. It's all very
Yeah.
healthy stuff. Dawn says, I buy 15-pound buckets of powdered Maxi Grow and Maxi Bloom. Why pay for the water in a bottle?
That's a fantastic question. So the reason I haven't bought Maxi Grow and Maxi Bloom is simply because it's extra work. So the Maxi Grow and Maxi Bloom are powder, and you basically get a bucket, a jug, or whatever, fill it with water, and then add in whatever it tells you on the instructions in the amount of nutrients that you add. You mix it up, and then you have a solution that you can add to your containers.
So you're just
Right.
buying the solution already made.
Exactly. So like I showed you earlier in these bags, same kind of thing
Mm-hmm.
that just dissolve in it. But the liquid stuff for me it's easy. I can pour it in a cap and pour it in, close the bottle and put it to the side.
And I would assume, especially if you're doing on a smaller scale, like I know Dawn has some, I don't know if they're all big setups, but she's got some pretty big setups with filters and stuff. So that I think that would
Nice.
That's
make
a very
sense.
good point. Yeah, and she's not just growing tomatoes, she's growing a bunch of different stuff as well. So it totally makes sense. If you're trying to do a lot, go with the more cost-effective powder. Trying to make it easier, get the liquid stuff.
For you guys entering the contest, make sure you put hashtag in front of tomato. Otherwise it won't pick it up. I see a member here that just wrote tomato. So make sure you can go ahead and redo it. Just put hashtag in front of tomato. Dawn also says, I have to adjust my water, but I use no meters. Bought 6 when I started and threw them all away. I use drops.
Yeah. So, I mean, all water is going to have a pH level, which is just how much, like the level of acidity in the water. Supposedly tomatoes like around 6 pH, which is a little more acid than neutral. And you can use pH, they call it pH up and pH down. And basically, if you're measuring all that stuff and you decide, oh, this is like at an 8 and my tomatoes are doing really badly, you can drop it down to get it to the right pH amount. But I haven't gone into all of that. Like I said, like I'm trying to keep it as simple as possible.
Yeah.
If I look at it and I'm like, this is growing, it's working.
Dawn's also saying, some say soil is better tasting for tomatoes. I decided if a tomato is bland and hydro, then get a stronger tomato variety. Yeah, that makes sense.
Fair enough.
Speaking of keeping it simple, let's try to walk this through. Like, say I want to do the micropalooza. I want to do a variety. And can you grow a variety in the quart size mason jars? Because I saw other people on YouTube doing it. Or do you feel it's just too small?
Yeah, you can get away with it. You're just gonna end up filling it a bit more often than if you had a bigger container. That Hokalos that I have is, so 1 quart is 1 liter, and these ones that I have are 1.5 liters.
Okay.
So it's 50% bigger. It's not a huge difference. You can get away with growing it. You're just going to fill it up more often.
And maybe same with soil, right? So I grow a Vilma in a smaller pot. It's going to produce just fine. But if I've got it in a bigger pot, it goes more. Would it be?
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah, the more space that your roots have to grow, the bigger the plant will get. And not sure if you'll get bigger tomatoes, but the plant will definitely get bigger.
Right.
Yeah.
So I've got my jar, either this or like what you showed or something like that.
Yeah.
Need to invest in net cups, which you can find on Amazon in a variety of sizes. Need to get something to start the seeds in. So that would be cocoa core, or what did you say? Oh, those little
cotton ball.
Cotton ball, cocoa core.
I'm going to try cotton ball.
You can start however you want to start the seeds.
Or you can start in soil, we talked about, right?
Absolutely.
And then transfer it. So
yeah.
I tend to start my micro dwarfs. I have this Bootstrap Farmer tray with these inserts. These I haven't transplanted yet. They need to be transplanted, but I start in these guys. So wash away the soil. Like when I'm ready, I can wash away. Probably don't want to wait till it's this big, I would assume, but wash away the soil. Yeah, really?
Yeah, of course. It's
just use like a gentle stream of water, I would imagine.
Exactly.
To just make sure it's really clean. And then you can just take that plant and stick it right in the net cup. That's a question.
Yes, you can, but you need, so the benefit of having the clay pebbles is that it holds it in place.
Oh, okay. So it's not like flopped over.
Exactly.
In the container.
But technically you can, and there's a few alternatives to using the clay pebbles. I like the clay pebbles because of how they look, but you can use cocoa core, which looks just like soil, but it's made out of coconut fibers and it's relatively inert, I believe, so there's no nutrients and stuff like that.
Right.
You can even start in the cocoa core and just take out the root ball, put it straight into your net cup, and it should be fine. You can use a pool noodle, which a lot of people use.
Oh, that's clever.
So, yeah, it's just to hold the plant in place. So anything you can do to hold that plant above the water, suspend it so that the roots drop in, you're good to go.
Okay. Yeah. So I don't necessarily need cocoa core. If I've got these pebbles, I can just stick that plant in the pebbles as long as it's held in place. Okay. And then I'm going to keep the water level down to the bottom.
Yeah, I wouldn't.
Cup.
So
I would.
is yours too high then?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, okay.
And it's been sitting around for weeks too, so it must have been really, really high.
Yeah. Yeah, that one's definitely too high. If you
Yeah.
can keep it around the bottom, you can have it drop down. I've had ones that have dropped down completely, and I've noticed it in a day. Like when it's covered in tomatoes, they drink so much water. And I filled it back up, and it's surprisingly it's done okay.
Interesting.
But you definitely don't want to leave it too long, to where it's just dying basically.
So if I'm germinating in the cocoa core or whatever in this,
Yeah,
the roots aren't going to be long enough to get down there yet. So I guess this will just keep it getting the water up to the bottom there. We'll just keep it moist enough to keep it going.
exactly.
And then I don't think it was Dawn. I think it was somebody else in the hydro group was talking about training the roots down. What were
Yeah, that was me.
Oh, was it you?
So what I do is trying to think of the easiest way to explain this. Basically, if I maintain that water level to a certain point, eventually it will grow air roots wherever there's not water, right? So if I want to maintain the maximum amount of water I can, from the very start, I'll keep it as high as I can. But you still need a gap, right? You can't fill it completely and just hope that the roots will grow somewhere else. So,
Okay.
yeah, I know just to make it easy when you look at it, the bottom of the net cup, that's good for me. That leaves plenty of space inside of the net cup.
Right down
For
there.
the arrow roots, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, because that's another thing that plants need is air, right? Oxygen.
Exactly.
So okay.
That could have been part of the problem too. Maybe I was suffocating.
You
the thing.
suffocated.
Yeah.
Could have been. That
You
could have been.
waterboarded your Vilma.
And then my poor Vilma.
Oh.
My poor Vilma. And then some recommended to get not necessarily one that's made for something like this, but you can paint it or wrap it in something like you talked about. These actually were made for this. I found them on Amazon, but just something to keep the algae down, right?
Yeah, I've painted some with dollar store paint. That was fun. I've done foil is really easy because most people have foil.
Oh,
around.
yeah.
Yeah, I've actually seen some of the best roots with people using foil. I don't know why, but like the roots have been perfectly
I wonder if
white.
they'll grow lights like.
Yeah, I was gonna say like the reflection of light because I use those foil sheets like that, that you would use like when you're cold or whatever, and you have to put the foil sheets. I have those foil sheets around my grow system because it reflects the light, makes the light more potent. So I bet that does do that with the foil.
Makes sense.
It just makes the roots have more light.
Great tip. I use my old black socks to cover the jars.
There you go.
Great
nice.
tip. Great
yes.
tip. Love that.
This is what I love about this whole thing is there's so many different ways that you can do it that it's really not going to make any difference to the overall result. It's whatever you have fun doing, whatever you find interesting, whatever you can do, whatever you can afford. You can make it work with pretty much anything.
I'm excited
10 minutes
to try
over already. Can you believe that? We are. Let me get a couple more of these questions and we'll give away. There's so much more to talk about. This
I
is
have an idea. We can reset the thing to 0.
You've been amazing.
Pretend that this never happened.
I second that. I second that.
Were the cracky tiny Tims in 5-gallon buckets too? Oh, sorry. There's one before that. Tiny Tim fruits now in DWC. What's that? What's DWC?
So DWC is deep water culture, and it's essentially what the Aerogardens are, and it's just circulating water, circulating the water and the nutrients with air inside of it. So you put a pump inside, and it adds that air. So it doesn't give it the chance to grow air roots. You just add the air yourself, basically, with a pump.
Okay. Deborah says, I've been growing cracky since 2017, late 2022. I added the bubblers, 5-gallon buckets. I guess it's like with everything with tomatoes, you start with like 10 plants and then you grow to like 400, right, Jen?
Yep. Yeah.
But for this purpose, if we're keeping it simple for this one purpose, There's no filters needed.
Yeah.
Do you need to shake it around or anything to give it air? It's fine just the way it is.
Yeah, no, just it's
Okay.
fine the way it is. Yeah.
And then what? I mean, you give it light. I assume like with soil, you have the light on all day. You turn it off at night. Yes.
Yep. You treat it the exact same way that you would treat a regular plant. You give it the light it needs. You make sure that it has the water that it needs and the nutrients every couple weeks, and that's about it.
That's pretty simple.
It's amazing. I'm totally doing this with at least one micro.
I think what I can
Trying
do.
again.
I think what I might be able to do is I have a hardened sucker that I grew, and I can kind of show you how easy it'll be to
Oh yes,
transfer it into one of these
Great.
systems.
because I have some micros that I've neglected they're in soil, and I was thinking they look like total crap. I'm thinking that maybe if I take them out and rinse off the roots, maybe I can revive a few of them.
Start with a sucker.
Oh, they're not big enough. They are a sucker. They're just a tiny. They're just a start.
Oh, okay.
They're not
micros,
big.
Yeah,
hard
if
to
they're
find
starts, then
suckers.
definitely give them
Yeah,
a
they're
try.
starts that I just.
Okay,
I
one
think I
second.
water off the dirt. Yeah.
For those of you watching, I have a video on my YouTube channel, Mr. and Mrs. Tomato Head, that talks about making new micro dwarf plants with suckers, but the suckers are very hard to find on micros. Not hard to find, but they're so small.
They're small,
but it does work.
yeah.
If you watch my video, it does work.
You know, small. That's good for this.
Right.
Yeah,
They're
I
small.
highly recommend watching that video because I
Thanks.
watched that just before making this sucker, and yeah, it made it really simple. And the comparison between all the different things that they say make it better.
So I did a comparison between dipping you cut off the sucker, which is like in the armpit between the main stem and the side shoot. Cut off the sucker, and sometimes they're only this big.
Yeah, they're tiny.
Like, well, can you really root this? So I tried it with just plain water. I tried it with root hormone?
Yeah.
Honey and cinnamon.
What?
And honestly, the plain old water won, I believe. They all did fine, but so that's a sucker you've got there.
Yes.
Look at that thing.
So
Look at those roots.
I did this the same method that you did in that video, Lauren. I just took the sucker and put it in a cup with water, and after about a week-ish, it had one root, and I said, well, that's good enough for me.
Yeah.
And I popped it into the basket without the sponge or anything. It was just to hold it in place, and left it in the Aerogarden. And this is 10 days later.
Wow. That's so cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Tomatoes are amazing.
Oh, I'm so excited.
I think I don't even need this plastic thing anymore. So I'll see if I can do this.
Don't take off the sticker.
Yeah, I was going to say, do you have your sticker?
So I'll show you. Once you have the clay pebbles, you don't need the sticker anymore.
Okay, so the clay kind of keeps the...
Oh, that makes sense. Look at that. So how old is that sucker?
This is probably 2 weeks old now.
Wow, that's so cool.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I've never grown suckers before. I don't know how fast they're supposed to grow or how big they're supposed to grow, but it looks good to me. It's also hard to tell.
That's a decent looking sucker, I'd say.
Yeah.
This was a Vilma sucker.
Is it growing suckers itself? I mean, it looks like it's big enough to...
Yeah, it does look like
Hardens does sprawl.
You could probably take a sucker from that sucker and suckerize it.
That's the whole goal. I didn't want to plant and wait for another one, so okay. So you can see all these roots. This is a lot of roots. Generally, you would have less roots when you're transplanting from seed, but I'm just
trying to get as many through the little holes.
Yeah, you can cut the bottom of the net cup just to make it easier, but this works. And just like in soil, you want to get it as deep as possible because you want it to be stable. Right? And then this part's relatively straightforward. Pop it in there.
And now, are the roots in the water, or you don't have water in that?
Yeah, I don't have the water in yet.
I really need to see you put the water. I'm kidding.
I can definitely add water after too.
Last month I poured water on myself showing a micro.
So generally I could cut these roots so that it's not all the way to the bottom, but it really doesn't make that much of a difference. All of these roots up to the net cup will be used for absorbing nutrients and water, and all the ones that are above it, that are still above in there,
Are going to grow
those
the air
will,
roots.
yeah, those will become air roots, and
Ah,
that'll be the whole system.
This is so
Awesome.
neat.
So
okay.
I just packed this back up with the
Could
clay
you
pebbles.
like use like fish rocks?
Yeah, you
Yeah,
can use
that'd be
whatever
great.
Whatever you want. It just needs to stabilize the plant.
Yeah,
Okay.
there's stuff on Amazon as well called cloning collars, and they're basically, they look like pool noodles that people have cut, and you can get them in different sizes depending on your net cup, and you just slip it in there. Actually, you don't even need a net cup. Like this net cup is 3.5 inches. If I could get a 3.5 inch pool noodle or cloning collar, you could just slip it in there and then put your plant in there. It's literally just to hold it in place.
Neato mosquito.
Yeah.
Super cool.
Then you just fill this up. This can take a while, this process of just piling it in there, but I would fill the water right up to the bottom there.
Just to the bottom, Lauren. Just to the bottom.
Got it.
Yeah, just to the bottom.
Got it.
If you have a bigger container, you can even go lower, but I just like to maximize the amount of, so I don't have to fill it up all the time.
Right.
But yeah, I'll finish this after, and then I'll post a picture in the TLC group.
Perfect.
once
That would
it's
be
all set up.
great. That would be
And
great.
then I should find a way to, I don't know how to cover this up yet. I want to avoid the algae, but I'll have to think about it.
Yeah, that's a nice container. And you could, I mean, Jen, you're so creative. I bet you could come up with some really neat things too, like containers and stuff that you
Oh
could
yeah, I'm
do
thinking
this
right
in.
now, my husband's grandmother's got this really big giant like glass jar. They have it sitting outside and I want it now. Like, I grow a big tomato in that one. Cause I mean, it's a big, it's one of them old jars, but it's really neat looking. And my husband was like, you want to take that? And I'm like, I don't really know what I'd do with it. Now I know what I'd do with it.
Now you know.
Fish bowl. Like,
Yeah, fish bowl.
Oh yeah, I have an old fish bowl. I could do. Yeah,
That's another part of hydroponics. They call it aquaponics, and you can actually grow in a fish bowl using the same kind of method, but the nutrients come from the fish poop.
Ah, and we all know fish
oh,
fertilizer is
you can have
good.
fish swimming around in there too.
Yep.
That's so neat.
Yeah, it is really good. I tried it, and then it was really dumb. I completely forgot to leave the gap for the air roots, so it drowned. But for a while, I was like, "This is gonna work. This is gonna work."
That would look super cool.
Yeah.
What kind of fish
Very
did you use?
relaxing.
Did you use like? Because I only have ever had beta fish because you don't have to have the aeration or the pump or whatever.
Yeah.
But I wonder if you could do it with beta fish.
Yeah. I don't see why not. It's
Very
and beta fish can be in a small container as well, so you could probably grow a micro in there. Yeah, I just have one guppy, and she's been around for a while. So at first she was like looking around the roots that were hanging in there. She's like, "What is this? Why are you adding this?"
So does yours have an air pump? Does a guppy need air pump?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, but it wasn't enough to keep a plant alive. Yeah, it
Not
doesn't
when you're
have
drowning
like
it.
Sorry.
I said not when you're drowning it.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm kidding.
Or do you mean drowning the fish?
No, drown. No. Can you? I don't think you can.
I don't know how good these books are, but it turns out there are several hydroponic tomato books you can get.
On tomatoes.
On tomatoes specifically, yeah. I mean, it turned out I already had one. I guess I downloaded it to my Kindle. Like, I have Kindle, whatever, so you can borrow and all that. I've never looked at. I still haven't had a chance to look at it. Table of contents looked like it was pretty short, but and these are only 3. There were others also. So if you want more information, but if
Lauren,
you're in,
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, if you're in TLC, join. We have a hydroponic tomato growing chat that Michael's in, and Dawn, our other expert. If you're not a member of our group, we'd love to have you. It's a really fun, supportive, and generous place to learn. And our Micropalooza is coming up in just a little less than 2 weeks.
Yeah,
it's going to be fun, and it's just going to be a way for us to get our tomato growing joy on during the winter months. Well, winter in my part of the world and many others. And then just, share progress. It's not a competition. You can do it hydroponically. You can do it whatever. The only rules are it has to be a microdwarf tomato for this contest or whatever. We're saying anything under 20 inches, which is generous. So no regular dwarfs. And it has to be started November 1st or later. But other than that, sky's the limit. You could grow it in a shoe. You could grow it, whatever you want. But we
I'm
would
so excited for that. I think that was a really great idea because in the winter, I know there was probably a lot of people that were thinking, "Oh, the season's over."
Yeah.
Anything.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And now, the more we all talk about micros, I feel like they're gonna have their moment at some point.
Oh, they're
think-
getting there.
I
They're
think
getting
they
there.
are. I think with the popularity of like our group and people talking about them. Patricia said, "What is a micro tomato you guys recommend?" I keep meaning
Vilma.
every single day in the group. I'm like, I have to put up like my top 10 micros. I keep meaning to do that, especially before Micropalooza. But I've been trying to grow, Patricia, every single micro there is, and for Micropalooza, I've got several new ones that have come out. But my favorite, and I know I show this little guy every month because it's pathetic. I have a Vilma plant. Vilma's my favorite. I have a Vilma plant that's been alive since August of 2022.
It's insane.
And it was looking really sad last month. Do you remember how sad it looked?
Oh, I mean
No?
a little bit, but it was
Not
still.
I think it
Sorry.
looked okay to me.
I had to prune it back.
Yeah, I mean,
Look at it now.
you stare at it every day, so.
Oh, wow.
Oh.
It's back.
And look, is that a tomato?
It's a tomato. There's lots
That's
of tomatoes, but
tomato.
yeah, we're getting some ripened
That
ones.
thing's
So
insane. That's
I keep
over a
pruning
year
them
old.
back. I've found that some micro dwarfs are indeterminate, and it's great that it's my favorite one. Joculos or whatever it's called. That's another one that I'm growing. That's been alive since January. That's an indeterminate, but I had no idea that some were indeterminate.
I like Aztec and Fat Frog
Mhm.
because it was the only green one. And,
Yeah.
I like green tomatoes.
Yes.
But apparently there's a new green one that just came out.
There is Bunny Hop Seeds has
I
jewel
don't have it
beetle.
yet. Who has
I might
it?
have to try that one
Somebody talk.
because also another fun fact, I've never tried a green tomato.
Oh my gosh, so many people tell me that. And it's
That's
just
a
like,
deal breaker. I'm
I
taking the
know.
talk here right now.
It's not out
Oh,
of choice. I've just
they
never
are
seen
my
that.
favorite. I thought
Yeah.
that like last year I tried a bunch of dark ones, like the darker, like purpley.
Yeah.
And I really like those too because some of them will have like almost a steak like flavor. They call it
Yeah.
umami,
Right.
umami
Oh,
flavor.
okay,
Like it's
yeah.
like it literally, if you shut your eyes and put it in your mouth, you would think that you had like a really juicy steak.
That's so
Right.
interesting.
But then I went nuts with the green ones this year, and nope, green ones are my favorite. And people are like, "You
My
mean like the unripe green one?" No,
Yeah.
the green
People
one,
have
right?
quite an aversion to green tomatoes for some reason. Like I
How
grow
do
a
you
lot
how
of
do you
vegetables.
describe it?
Green?
I mean, honestly,
Yeah.
like if you
Well, they
blind
ha- there's-
taste test, I think it would compare to a Cherokee purple or something. Some of them. I mean, there's some bad greens too, but
Oh yeah. I was gonna say
I think they're very full flavored. I believe.
yeah, they're very like if you like again they're all different. Like Lauren said, you can have ones that are just kind of like meh, but there's a lot like my favorite this year. Oh gosh, now it just went out of my mind.
Banana s'more, of course.
Yeah, banana s'more. And then,
That's my variety. I'm kidding.
gosh, why can't I think of the name of my favorite babe? What was my favorite green one?
There was a couple Kazulas you said you liked.
Oh yeah, Kazulas are just gorgeous and they taste good.
Jarson one was a really wonderful one for me this year, and also Captain Lucky.
Ohio
Oh,
River Huge Green was good. That's not my favorite. I do not know why I cannot think of my favorite one. That's so sad. But it's just, I don't know. They like slaps you in the face with like deliciousness.
Yeah,
It's
sweet
like
and
sweet and tart.
tanginess.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I grow a lot of extra plants to give away at the beginning of the season because I'm a maniac. I can't give away green tomato plants. People just have an
It's
aversion to
insane.
them.
They just
think
don't.
that
They don't get it.
tomatoes should be red.
It is one thing though, like sometimes it's hard to tell. Like there was a couple this year where I was just like, when are you going to get ripe? And then I remember, oh, you're green. And I would squish and I was like, whoopsie,
Oh,
like, some of them look like straight up they're still ripening,
Yeah.
but they're not. They're actually ripe. And like Ohio River Huge Green, it literally has that color of a just put on fruit. And they were like all ripe, and some of them just went straight to rotten. I was like, whoops.
Yep.
Well, I know, Lauren, you said it's way too big to start indoors, but
Mhm.
I think I'm going to try the Bananas Noir indoors,
You should.
I think you can.
hydroponically.
It's a pretty wispy, like the stem of it. I don't think it's very thick, right, Lauren? At least
No, the
most of mine.
stems are thin, so I recommend like
Yeah,
double,
very-
triple stemming it. But
Okay.
I bet it will work.
I'll give it a
I'll
try.
be curious.
I
Yeah,
don't remember how many seeds exactly I have, but I'll try with one and
that's awesome.
Mine got to be
Really
like
get
10
some
feet,
of it.
like it, but it kind of fell over and then went across the ground, so it'll get big.
For those of you that don't know,
that's fine.
this is our variety. It's an accidental cross we were gifted with several years ago. We just started giving out seeds this year. It's a cross between a Nanas Noir and an unknown cherry, which I think might be Coyote, but I don't know for sure. It's very sweet. But I wanted to show you guys, and I know we're way over and we have to give away prizes, but there was only Fat Frog before as far as a green micro.
Look at that beauty.
And this
Oh,
is from
I so
Ellie from
want
Bunny
it.
Hop Seeds at Heritage Seed Market. Has come out with several new micro dwarfs this season, and this one's called Jewel Beetle.
Yeah.
And
It was sold out before
cool.
I even
Yeah.
heard about it.
when she told me about it, on her site, it'll say like 8 available. I said, Ellie, by the end of the day, these are going to be sold out once I
Yeah.
put it in my group. And it was within an hour, like they were gone.
Mhm.
But the great thing about our group is we share seeds. So,
Yes.
Oh yeah,
all right, let's give
everyone
away
will
some
have those
prizes.
eventually.
Let's give away some prizes. So
Yes,
thank you guys
please.
for hanging in with us. This is
Yeah.
our longest
This is
episode,
the longest.
but it's been so informative. Michael, you've been amazing.
Yes,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
So much.
I feel very confident that I can do this now.
Yeah. And so
And
nutrients every 2 weeks. Yes.
yeah, what I'll say is anybody who's interested and they're in the TLC group, join the hydroponics chat. It's not crazy active, so your notifications aren't going to go crazy, but
Mhm.
any follow-up questions or anything, just go in there, and all of us that have tried it or know anything about it, we'll try to help you out. It's honestly, I hope with this, I showed you how simple it was to just transfer something that was grown somewhere else and just popped in here, how easy it is to just get it set up. So
Yeah, you made it very easy for people. Like it,
You did.
if you go on, you had mentioned a couple of YouTube channels, and I went on there, and I was just like, oh my, okay. I was overwhelmed
Yeah.
with it. I was like, I'd have to sit here for days to try to absorb some of this information, and you told us in like 20 minutes, and I was like, oh, I can do that.
Yeah.
yeah.
And like somebody said just a couple minutes ago, they started with crack key, which is the method Michael's been showing us, and then they graduated to other things.
Yeah, I mean, once you get comfortable with one thing, then you're itching just, oh, well, let me see if I can try that, see if that works.
Exactly.
And then, that's with gardening. That's with anything, you
Yeah.
know?
Yep.
Also, before we give away, I forgot to mention, I mentioned this to these guys yesterday. I read Epic Gardening, who I'm sure everybody here knows. He did a blog post on hydroponic gardening, and he claimed that hydroponic plants grow 20% faster, for whatever it's worth. Michael, you had thoughts on that as far as your personal experience.
So I completely forgot about it. I'm going to grab the Aerogarden that I have with a Vilma and the Funny Plum Yellow. That I think those were both that you sent me, Lauren.
Yeah.
And they're 30-something days old. So I'm hoping, as the queen of Vilma, you can take a look at it and tell me where it's at in terms of
All right.
timing, and then we can see.
Cool.
And to theorize maybe why he says that it grows quicker, I would think that maybe because that soil isn't in the way, that the roots can just do their thing. Like,
Yeah,
does
I
the
don't know.
soil slow it down? I don't know.
Dawn,
Maybe.
I don't know if you're still here, if you've got thoughts on that.
Yeah, and I
Rowena, I thought of that too. Sweet Baby Jade, which is not a micro, small green cherry. I thought of that too. That's one of Karen Olivier's dwarf cherry. Wow.
Okay.
That's 30 days old?
Yeah, I think it's 35 now.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I would say that is definitely quicker.
Okay. One of them is Funny
Wow.
Plum and one of them is Vilma, and I have no idea which one is which.
I can probably Funny Plums tend to sprawl out. This is a Funny Plum, so
Yeah.
kind of hard
Wow.
to tell. I'm thinking the one. Yeah, no, I'm thinking the other one might.
This one is very compact and like.
Oh, it's hard to tell.
Actually, I might be able to lift this out a little bit. But you can see how short this is.
Yeah, Vilma's definitely compact. This is another Funny Plum. I've got two going. I just couldn't wait for Micropalooza, right?
Yeah, I didn't wait either. Like I said, I
I'm
started.
drawing a million for Micropalooza too. Yeah, it looks like that might be the Funny Plum.
This thing has suckers growing out of every single.
Oh yeah, mine does
possible
too.
place.
Actually, now that you
Oh,
say
make
that.
some clones.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, they have very few
I have
seeds.
so
I
many
found
things growing
when I was
out.
trying to save seeds from.
I know,
Funny
it's
Plum
hard to
Yellow.
stop. I'm just like, oh, I don't want to waste that sucker.
Funny
Yes.
Plum Yellow was one of my favorites too for flavor. That was a nice surprise.
That's exactly. I think the Funny Plum one or the Vilma, one of them has flowers on it already.
Oh,
30 something days.
Awesome.
Don't you just love
So-
it?
Yeah,
I think
I would say
Yeah, these.
that's
ones.
pretty quick.
30 days.
Dawn does have thoughts on it. The plants grow a lot faster and produce faster in Kratky rather than soil. I can seed in lettuce and eat it in 3 to 4 weeks. That's awesome.
Oh, wow.
That's
Okay.
very awesome. All right, I have so much more I want to show and talk to you
Oh,
guys
yeah.
about, but we can't be here all night, even though
Yeah, I
wanted
got to
to.
carve pumpkins. Pumpkin carving night.
All right, let's give away some seeds. So, Jen, what are you giving away tonight?
You know what? Does anybody care if it's just, should it be micros?
It can be whatever you want.
Can it be a surprise?
Yeah.
So I'll give
Jen's surprise pack.
Yeah, 5
right.
different kinds is a surprise.
All right, let's see. Jen's
And
tomato
whoever wins
surprise.
can message me, and if you want it to be micros, tell me, and I'll give you 5 different micros. Or
Lexi Munter.
Yay!
Congratulations, Lexi. And then Michael, you sure you want to give away seeds?
Yeah, I have a bunch of ink spot.
Ink Spot,
Ink
which
Spot,
is another
ooh.
one of my favorites.
yeah, that's
And
a tasty one too.
delicious tomatoes. So we'll do another drawing for that. Unfortunately, this tool does not remove the name of the people who won, so sometimes I have to keep going to find a new person. But so this is Michael's Ink Spot, the Hapless Hobo.
Woo!
Yes.
Yay!
Hapless Hobo, if you're not in our group, you can, let's see, how about you can email me at Lauren@gratitudeaddict.com. I don't know if that's the more simple way, or you can find me on Facebook.
Join the group.
Join the group. Mr. and Mrs. Tomato Head on Facebook, or Tomato Lovers Collective and Swap. But or if you subscribe to either mine or Jen's channel, perhaps you can find us there too. But send us your info and we'll get you Michael's Ink Spot. And then I'm giving away a micro package, and I am finally getting around to sending out the seeds. I saw Nicole Smith here. I've owed you seeds forever, Nicole. I haven't forgotten. I'm sorry. That was from like episode 1, I think. Sorry, I'm not usually like this. So I'm giving away a micro package of, I wrote it down, a couple of my favorites. Vilma, of course, Little Heartbreaker, which is this guy. I just took a bunch of red ones off today, but this is a great little compact plant and surprisingly tasty. Not a lot of people know about that one. Imola, which is one I was given from a trade in Hungary.
Oh, haven't heard of that one.
Tiny, you're getting some. I have some set aside for you.
Oh.
Tiny Totem, which is a micro with probably the biggest fruits that I've seen, and the tastiest. That's my second favorite.
First,
And then
I thought it was wrong.
the other one is called Miri Miri. I'm going to show a picture of it. Jen is the only other person I've given seeds to. Got these from Tomato Eden in Latvia. I had to confirm that it's really called Miri Miri because there's nothing about it on the internet. And what you do find on the internet, Miri Miri is not a micro. But I confirmed with Tatiana from Tomato Eden, this is called Miri Miri micro. So they're hard to find. It was by far my most productive micro this year.
Yes. Both my plants, I grew one in a green stalk and one in a grow pot. They both did amazing.
So
but they're determinate, right? They're determinate, so they put on all their fruit and then they're done.
Right. A lot of fun, and excited to give away seeds for these, since people in the US at least don't have them and you can't really find anything about them. So, all right, let's give away seeds for this. Thank you guys for hanging around this
thank
long.
you.
The three of us, when we met yesterday, we were saying, we could probably just broadcast our meeting and people would like want to tune in and watch, because we just all love to talk tomatoes. Keith Seeger.
Yay, Keith.
I owe you more seeds, Keith. I know how to contact you. So congratulations. Gosh, thank you guys. So our next episode is November. We just figured this out.
November 10th. I wrote it down.
Friday, November 10th. And then starting December and from there on out, we are now going to do the first Friday of every month.
Yes. Make it easy on everyone to remember, even me.
Yes. But for next month is November 10th. Michael Kelly, you've been amazing.
Yes. Thank you so much for coming on.
So
thank you for having me.
You really, I think you got a lot of people excited. You got me excited about trying this. I might try it with a couple.
I'm much more, I have some confidence now, because before I was just like, every time I go on a YouTube video, I'm like, I don't know. There's pumps and there's pipes and
it's way too scary for what it actually is.
Yeah.
Like, it's just replacing your soil with water and the nutrients that you add. That's as simple as I can explain it. But yeah, thank you guys for having me on here. And I felt like I needed to help share information, because you guys have brought me into the world of being obsessed with tomatoes.
That's exactly why I do everything I do.
Any content that you guys will put out, I'll watch them. Like, I don't even have notifications on for your videos, Jen, but I just will open YouTube and see it, and I'm like, oh, I guess whatever I'm doing right now is being on pause, and I'll
You're so sweet. Thank you so much. That means so much to me.
Yes, thank you for this
that
hour and a half, and you can tell from the comments everybody loved it also. So Kenneth Spangler says, I can't wait. Oops. Congrats to the winners. Rowena says, I can't wait to watch this back. I think this episode in general, for people that aren't watching live, I think this is going to be a highly watched video, because you really did simplify it and made it seem very doable for people that don't want to mess with pumps and stuff. So thank you so much. And Jen, I always love being with you, my buddy.
I love you too.
Bye, everybody. Thanks for hanging in there with us.
Bye.
See you soon. Oh, what do you say at the end of your videos, Jen?
Enjoy your day.
And I say peace and love, and get your gratitude on. See you guys next month. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.